Being in the Bowers Museums, you have all had a chance to take in, reflect on, and become inspired by the contents, the space that we are in. The work that I've done with Viet Book Fest and VAALA has given me the opportunity to embody these following statements. We are made up of all the things that we love, and part of that is other people. You pick up little things, phrases, habits. You carry pieces of them with you, always. You are a mosaic of everyone you've ever loved. As artists, authors, folks here on the stage are in a position to visibly share the pieces that make up the mosaic of who they are through their work. And as you listen to these folks share with you about their work, about themselves, think about all the little things that they can share. Think about what you can share. So as we listen to our authors give readings of excerpts of their books or just talk about their books, I hope you, like all of them, give a moment to share a little thing that they've embedded in their work that comes from someone who has impacted them, whether that be a friend, a parent, an aunt, uncle, sibling, cousin. We'd really love to hear about you and how the community you surrounded yourself has reflected in your work as well. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, is it on?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ann Chow, and I am the author of My Own Wise Garden, Cal's Guide to Vietnamese Fruits and Culture. And I just wanted to provide you with a quick overview about the book before talking about the inspiration behind it. This book is about my Ông Ngoại, which is my dad, and my son exploring Ông Ngoai's backyard, where he grows a variety of Asian fruits, including the durian, the rambutan, the cherimoya, and a number of fruits. So what I would do is I'm just going to give you like a quick visual. Throughout the book, the character Cal's go through his grandpa's garden, and he picks up the books, and he picks up the fruits, and he talks about the different types of fruits that he sees. One of the main things that I wanted to come through in my book is, for readers to see the world through the lens of a toddler that is learning about the world. I will mention that Grandpa does provide some context about the fruits himself. In this particular page, Cal picks up a mango, which is the soursop fruit, and we were able to weave in the Lunar New Year. During the Lunar New Year, in my family, what we would do is we would offer the chai mango along with the coconut, the papaya, and the mango. Now, when we put all these fruits together on the family altar, there is this phrase that my family would share with us, which is "Gao ye du suai," which roughly translates to one's wish to have enough to spend. And while writing this book, I was very excited about incorporating the things and lessons that my dad has taught me when I was growing up. For context, I am a second generation Vietnamese American who was born here. My parents came from Vietnam as boat people. So growing up, I learned Vietnamese in school, at home, and my parents spoke to me in Vietnamese. Now, while I am not fluent in Vietnamese, I am very darn proud of how much I've been able to communicate to date. Whether it's speaking with my parents, with my uncles, my aunts, or just navigating Vietnam whenever I travel abroad, I think it is a privilege to be born here and to be in a position where I can help bridge two different generations together. As a mama of two, I have a 3-year-old toddler and a 5-month baby. I want them to grow up having a sense of pride in their Vietnamese heritage. Now, whether or not they pick up Vietnamese fluently is not something that I'm going to pressure them to do, but I want to inspire them to learn more about their language and culture on their terms. And this book is the starting point for these conversations. I also So throughout the book, it is written in English. There are references to fruits in Vietnamese. And towards the end of the book, there is a beautiful glossary of fruits that parents can share with their loved ones. I've had non-English or non-Vietnamese parents that have purchased this book, and they were able to let me know how much fun it is to give their kids an opportunity to identify some of these fruits. And there are also children who read this book that developed a curiosity about how to say words in Vietnamese. So I think as a creative who was born here, there's a lot of opportunities for us to share our family stories in such meaningful ways, whether it's through writing a book or doing social media content or creating content on YouTube. And it is such a privilege and honor to share the stage with my fellow authors because we are in a position to amplify our family's voices.
Thank you, Anne. That was great. Hello, I'm C.B. Lee. I am a queer science fiction and fantasy and contemporary and historical author. I write many genres. I'm a second generation as well. I'm Vietnamese and Chinese. I think my parents probably have been among the primary inspiration. I think I grew up on stories of their harrowing journey by boat, a story that I remember very well. My mom would tell me the boat that they escaped in was pretty much the length of from our dining room to the front door. And she told us about how one night the boat was attacked by pirates. And the pirates didn't hurt anyone or do anything. They took the men off the boat and fed them. And then some people left with the pirates. And then the pirates also took cash and stuff, but they didn't hurt anyone. And as a kid, this story always fascinated me because you're a kid and you want to imagine okay, they're good guys and they're bad guys, and or these pirates bad guys. And so it was a complicated time. And as a kid, you also grow up reading and looking at media and stories and books. And I loved reading voraciously. And I always wondered why a lot of the stories that we read about in school, hey, this is a great American novel, these are the great classics, all of these were by old white men. And so when I started writing, I wanted to tell stories that I could be proud of, that stories that reflected me, people who looked like me, who felt like me. Because all these stories, when we talk about what America sees or what society sees, they kind of paint us into this picture of okay, your story has to be about trauma. If you're queer, it has to be about coming out. If you're Asian, it has to be about struggling with Asian issues. And there's no room there for complexity, to have more than one marginalized identity that could be intersectional in any specific way. So I've written a queer superhero series, Not Your Sidekick, Not Your Backup, or Not Your Villain, Not Your Backup, and then Not Your Hero will be coming out when I finish writing it. But I also have a young toddler as well. So it's coming. But I think about inspiration. I always cite my parents as inspiration. My mom actually wrote the Vietnamese foreword in Clash of Steel, where it says, she also did the calligraphy for this in Chinese, because she saw me attempting to do it, and she was like, nope. But my mom also said, words may disappear like the wind, a story is passed on forever. So I hope that what we're all doing here today is getting to celebrate each other as creatives, to get to explore different stories. The Clash of Steel is a retelling of A Treasure Island, which was part of getting to take on that classic and really take my turn to be hey, there's a Vietnamese main character, a Chinese main character. It's set in the 1800s. It's a fun, rollicking adventure. And it's a historical novel, but it's not historical about the Vietnam War. And it's, we talk about imperialism, and but it's also mostly just adventure and falling in love and romance. And I want every kid to be able to be hey, I want to walk into a bookstore and be able to see my face. I want to see brown people like me. I want to see queer people like me. I want to be able to see the possibility of having so many different happy endings, of having anything you want to do. You can go to space. You can go, be in Star Wars. You can be you can write anything that or dream of anything your heart desires. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And books out there. I'm excited to hear more from everyone else here on the stage.
Hello, everybody. My name is Quan Nguyen. I'm the author of it's a memoir called Sparrow in the Razor. Subtitles: Finding Freedom from Within While Serving a Life Sentence. This shares my journey. First generation Vietnamese immigrant, growing up in Provo, Utah, facing racism. Then I moved out here to Orange County. Ended up involved with a very ruthless and violent Vietnamese gang after my father passed away when I was 13. So I just shared how did I come to my own sense of freedom while I was inside. Some of the best letters I get to this day are from men or women that have read my book inside and tell me, like, thank you for writing your book. So I figured I'll just read for a few moments on some of it. So I begin the beginning of every chapter with the actual transcripts from my parole hearing. Presiding Commissioner, now once you caught up, then what happened? Inmate Nguyen, when we caught up, I rolled down the window, and when the car came up onto the right of me, I pointed my gun, aimed at the car, and started shooting and unloaded the whole clip. Presiding Commissioner, what kind of gun was it? Inmate Nguyen, it was a 6 Sauer 9mm. Presiding Commissioner, was it 9 shots, 12 shots? What was it? Inmate Nguyen, 15 shots. On January 15, 1999, I shot and killed Minh Nguyen and tried to shoot and kill his 3 friends, David, Vincent, and Andrew. After our fight at a Hollywood nightclub, I put into effect a chain of events that would forever alter numerous lives. We followed them for about 20 miles before I did the shooting. To this day, I am still not sure why the fight started, because I wasn't there. It didn't matter to me though. These guys had disrespected us by fighting my homeboys, so I wanted to shoot them. I was 24 years old, attending college and working at the Gallup organization. This was before the fame of their StrengthsFinder studies, the personality assessment based on positive psychology that changed how the corporate world viewed management styles and talents. At that time, they were more known for their Gallup polls, and I was their 1998 Interviewer of the Year. Other managers suggested I interview for a management role. The position would have put me in charge of a location that had over 300 interviewers. Finally, for once in my life, it felt things would go right. There was another side of my life though. For the last 7 years, I had been going in and out of juvenile hall and the California Youth Authority, where they house the most serious juvenile offenders. I was released the previous year from a parole violation for possession of handguns and was still on active parole. I felt my life had no sense of purpose or direction. On the one hand, I was a member of a violent and ruthless Vietnamese street gang. And on the other hand, I attended college and seemed on the outside to be as capable as the next person. I had no self-understanding of my true motives. I only knew that I wanted a better life than the one I was living, but had no sense of where I could find it. The management position and everything it represented seemed to be the answer. Yet I was also seeking status, a form of success in the gang life. Later I would learn how wrong I was in pursuing either path. It would take a life sentence in prison for me to find true meaning and purpose in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Trinity, the author of Abandon Me for Two. So unfortunately, I think I'm the only person on this panel whose book is not out yet. It's coming out on August 20th. So if you want to pre-order, thank you so much in advance, come on. So Abandon Me for Two is it's a sweet, sapphic, or queer romantic comedy book about 2 Vietnamese girls falling in love. And I say that it is my love letter to my home city, Saigon, where I was born and also visited pretty frequently, including December of this past year. And the inspiration of this book really came from the fact that I've always been super fascinated by cities and food and how all that ties into the themes of migration and displacement. And even though it is a young adult book and it's fun, it's joyful, it's about, my target audience is about, it's teens. Like I want teens to walk into a bookstore and see themselves wearing like an aoyai and like seeing themselves on the cover of these books. But it's also unpacking a lot of intergenerational trauma and how do we rectify history with our family and how do we have important conversations, even if it is a book that's very fun. And I really love what Elaine said about how our craft is a mosaic of our community, because being in publishing, this book is truly a product of everyone who has worked on it, not just myself. And I think that most of the time when people talk about publishing a book or writing a book, it is a very lonely process. But my book is not really just all of my ideas. It is my ideas workshop with my editors, my team, my friends, and people who I've interviewed about like all the Vietnamese things. And so it is a product of love, a product of community. Yeah, and thank you, Elaine. So I can read the description of the back of the book just so like everyone has like a little idea of what the book is about. So in Saigon, Lan is always trying to be the perfect daughter, dependable and willing to care for her widowed mother and their banh mi stall. Her secret passion, however, is a banh mi for two, or the food blog that she started with her father, but has stopped updating since his passing. Second generation Vietnamese American, Vivi has never been to Vietnam. Her parents rarely ever talk about the homeland that clearly haunts them. Now a college freshman, she sneakily chose Vietnam for the first semester study abroad program. She's hungry for the truth about why her parents left. And when they faithfully met, they strike a deal. Lan will guide Vivi through the city, helping her piece together her mother's story through crumpling photographs and old memories. Vivi will then help Lan start writing again so she can enter a life-changing food blogging contest. And as their romance unfolds, they both learn so much about each other and about their own city and all the street food within Saigon. Thank you.
Wow, I am really overwhelmed and it's so heartwarming and inspiring to see young writers and fellow older writers like me here with different intersections of identities, queer, outside of California, comedy, romance, amazing. I have a lot of hope for the generation after just witnessing all this. And now I feel hella old, actually, being a writer up here and talking about Vietnamese folk tales. But, and so I feel like as part of the 1.5 generation, which is the generation that was born in Vietnam and came to the US before you're 13, before you have developed your own sense of the world, being fully matured. That is my purpose in life, actually, is to be the bridge to between the first generation, which is your parents or your grandparents, and the younger the second generation of folks who are born here, growing up here. And I feel like sometimes we need somebody to help transition that, And so I hope that I'm able to do that through this book, Vietnamese Stories, which I had the honor of co-authoring with Dr. Tri Tran here. Actually, he's the mastermind behind this. It's all his fault, and he invited me to help translate into Vietnamese, and I was immediately taken.
You mean into English?
Into English, yes, thank you. Into English, and I was immediately, because growing up, I remember my mom telling me these folk tales, whatever, different fairy tales, folk tales, legends. And loving it, and that was the connection to my mom being Vietnamese, and I never saw that in books or in school or anything like that. And so I was older, and somebody asked me, can you please tell my kid, your Vietnamese is better than mine or whatever, can you please tell my kid a folktale story? And I could not remember the details. Like, I knew how to start it and I knew the ending, but everything in between was like a blur. Like something, somehow she got there and now she has 100 eyes as a pineapple, something like that. She turned into a pineapple. And then, so I was like, well, that's sad, you know, and how many people are like me, wanting to share stories to their kids, their nephews, nieces, whoever, younger. And so I said, you know, so when he brought this, I was like, perfect, let's write this book that is in both English and Vietnamese, with cultural notes at the end that explains why would somebody want that, you know, or make that kind of decision. So cultural notes, vocabulary, things like that, and also, and you'll see that even with a book like this, took a lot of folks, a lot of collaboration with even the illustration, with a very renowned artist, a couple who's an artist in the community, first generation, somebody who you're able to hear audio readings of these stories, 40 of these stories in Vietnamese by the beautiful Vanessa Hồng Vung, who has a gorgeous voice, and she reads the stories in Vietnamese, so you can pop it in when you're taking a long road trip, you know.
Yeah, the audio is free though. We have the link, so we are ready to send it to you or airdrop or whatever you want it to however you want it to have. And yes.
Or it's online.
Yeah, we learned so much from writing this book together, and we just hope that this is the fourth edition already. So we hope to do something about it in the near future. And thank you for your interest in yeah, we had a lot of copies sold today. Thank you.
What was your inspiration, very quickly, Anne?
And inspiration, I was surrounded by magazines and books and authors my age when I was young. So I looked up to them and I said to myself, one day I will have to write like that. So now writing is just part of my life. I'm always writing, just like I'm always breathing. Thank you.
Xin chào mọi người, tôi tên tôi là Theresa May Chuck và tên tiếng Việt của tôi là Trúc Mỹ Tuệ. Tôi sinh ra ở Sài Gòn, Vietnam. Hello everyone, my name is Theresa May Chuck. My name in Vietnamese is Trúc Mỹ Tuệ. I was born in Saigon, Vietnam. My mother, brother, and I fled our native homeland shortly after the Vietnam War, and we spent 3.5 months in the sea before being rescued. My father was put in a Viet Cong re-education camp, prison where he spent 9 years of his life. I first met him when I was 9 because my mom was pregnant with me when he was taken away. I dedicate my book, Incidental Takes, which has Vietnamese translations by my dear friend Viet An, who lives in Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City. I dedicate my poetry chapbook to our Nuuk country and water, the sea, the ocean, the rivers and lakes. I dedicate this book to Ga Ong, grandfather fish, the whales, protectors of fishermen. This book is about the impact of war, colonialism, and capitalism on our Nuuk, on our country, and our water. I'm going to share 2 short poems from my book, Xin Loi. Sorry if I make mistakes in my Vietnamese. I'm still learning my native tongue. I'll read the poem in English first. So a lot of my inspiration in my writing is from Thich Nhat Hanh and also my grandmother, Banoi Gotoi. A lesson on interbeing. Thich Nhat Hanh says that when I eat an orange, I could taste the clouds, the rain, the sunshine, my late grandmother's love when she planted this tree nearly half a century ago. Hear her voice conversing with leaves, feel the fluttering wings of bees covered in pollen, and see the iridescent hummingbird that visits daily, drunk on the nectar of orange blossoms. Su Deep Hin, Trong Nau, Su Ông Thich Nhat Hanh, Jim Nim, Khi tôi ăn một trái cam, tôi có thể nghe vị những đám mây mưa thiên nắng, tình yêu của người bà đã mất khi bà trồng cây gần nửa thế kỷ trước. Nghe tiếng bà rủ rỉ với những chiếc lá, cảm nhận cái tập cánh bay của những ông nhỏ nắng chiều phong hoa, và thấy những chú chim ruồi dễ tham say sưa trên những giọt mặt hoa cam. The next poem is called Where the Water Flows. When looking at water around us, rivers, lakes, oceans, rain, remember water flows within us, the same water as rivers, lakes, oceans, rain. Những nơi dòng nước chảy trôi, khi ta nhìn nước xung quanh, dòng sông họ bể, biển xanh, mưa nguồn. Nơi than tha nước mặc lùn, cửa sông họ bể, mưa nguồn, biển xanh. Cảm ơn.